One traditional way to compare and order fractions is to cross-multiply. For example, 5/8 versus 9/16. Well, I could cross-multiply the 5 with the 16. 5 times 16 is 80. I'll compare that to the denominator of the first fraction and the numerator of the second one. And that is 8 times 9, or 72. 80 is greater than 72, so I know my first fraction, the one I use the numerator on, in the multiplication, is greater than my second fraction. So that's all fine and wonderful, but if you're ever ordering a series of fractions and you have to do this for each and every fraction, it can be time consuming. It can take a while. So we have a few more tips you might want to learn to help you order and compare your fractions a fair bit more quickly. For example, I could try to convert each fraction to an equivalent fraction. Now, obviously, we're ordering and comparing. By definition, they're almost never the same, so one will be greater than the other. But if we put the numerators in the same terms or the denominators in the same term, that facilitates an easy comparison. For example, 5/8, I know, times 2 is equivalent to, a numerator and denominator, 10/16. And that clearly is greater than 9/16. All else equal, a larger numerator will result in a larger fraction. If we match numerators to the same value, all else equal, the larger denominator will be the smaller value. So we can try to put the numerators or denominators on the same terms and compare the other parts of the fraction. 7/12 versus 8/13. Well, I notice on this one, the difference between numerator and denominator is 5. 7 is 5 less than 12. Likewise, 8 is 5 less than 13. So, all else equal, if that difference is the same or constant, the larger numbers will be the larger values. 8/13 will be greater than 7/12. So one way you could think about that in more easily identifiable numbers might be 1/2 and 2/3. They're each different by 1, but 1/2 is, on the decimal equivalent basis, 0.5, and 2/3 is 0.6, and I'll just round it up to 6.67, which is clearly greater. Let's put these methods to test in ordering problem, where we want to order our sequence of fractions from low to high. The first one, well, right away, I know the difference from numerator to denominator for each of these is plus 5. So I know my lowest absolute value is going to be my lowest, and then moving up for 24, 20 divided by 29, up to 31 divided by 36. And I'm quickly able to order that from one of our methods. Let's move on to the next one. 7/4, 13/8, 25/16, and 20/12. Well, I notice I can begin to put common denominators here. So 7/4 really is 14/8. So I know that's greater than 13/8. So I'll put 13/8 here for a second. And I'll now compare that to 25/16, which is 4 times the denominator. So 4 times my numerator is 28/16. So I know 7/4 is greater than 25/16. Now the question is comparing 13/8 and 25/16. Is 25/16 less than 13/8? Well, if I doubled 8 to 16 to get the same denominator, my 13 will become 26/16. So I do know 13/8 is equivalent to 26/16, and that's going to be greater than 25/16 in my order. Now we'll assess where 20/12 fit in to this. The denominator 12 in 20 over 12 is 3 times the denominator 4 in 7/4. So 7/4 is equivalent to 21/12. So 7/4 will be greater than 20/12. And then the question is, where exactly does 20/12 belong? Let's compare that to our 13/8. 8 to 12 is 50% greater. 50% of 13 is 6.5. So that's really 19.5 twelfths. So 20/12 is indeed greater than 13/8. I could have found a common denominator, but I thought that was a little bit easier the way I look at it, and I've completed my ordering. In practice, most problems won't rely on just one method or the other. They'll require you to use the whole toolbox of different options to facilitate quick and easy calculations of your ordering. So let's do so in this problem. 7/8 to 63/70. Well, I know 7/8 is 0.875. 63/70, that's 7 less than 70, so that's 0.9. 32/40 I can quickly put in toward a common denominator with 7/8 is 5 times, so 7/8 is 35/40. So that's greater. 32/40 will be on this end of the spectrum, below 7/8. And pi over 4, I can make comparison. I know that's roughly 3.14 divided by 4, so it's a little more than 75%. So my comparison is going to be right with 32/40. And I can use a common denominator in that case. That's equivalent to 31.4/40. And that is less than 32/40. So my final ordering will be pi over 4 is my lowest value. 32/40 is the next higher. Then 7/8, and finally 63/70. So in this case, I brought a number of different tools to work to quickly assess, given the numbers, as reliably as I can, what the ordering from low to high is.